So, 3 years ago, this woman in Ohio started a very specific and honestly a pretty strange morning routine.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right. And she didn't buy a vision board, she didn't light any incense, and she definitely wasn't, chanting to the universe or anything like that.
So no crystal healing involved.
No crystals, zero. She just opened a notebook, a regular notebook, and wrote a single sentence. Just, I am the kind of person who finishes what she starts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she did this every single morning. And the results. 18 months later, she had successfully launched a business, completed a degree, and get this, she ran a marathon.
A marathon.
A marathon she had previously quit training for, 4 separate times.
I mean, it almost sounds like a fable.
Yeah.
Like the classic overnight success story, just waiting for a super catchy, inspirational soundtrack to play in the background.
Right, totally.
But the truth of what happened in that room in Ohio is, well, it's entirely grounded in biology. Like, nobody handed her those achievements. Her brain physically built them block by block.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when you hear a story like that, the immediate instinct is to just lump it in with all the mystical woo-woo marketing we see constantly on our feed.
Oh, for sure. It's everywhere.
Exactly. The whole, law of attraction fairy tale where you just think really hard about a red sports car and poof, it magically appears in your driveway.
If only it were that easy, right?
Seriously. But for today's deep dive, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of neurobiology papers and clinical case studies to look at the real neuroscience of manifestation.
Yeah, the actual hard science.
Right. Our mission today is to strip away the crystals, the chanting, all the magic, and replace them with a very physical reality. Because her success had absolutely zero to do with the universe granting wishes and everything to do with this piece of neurological hardware in the skull that's about the size of a pinky finger.
Yeah, the wellness industry, they accidentally stumbled onto a legitimate documented neurological mechanism, but then they kind of dressed it up in candlelight and sold it back to the public as magic.
Basically, yeah.
By the end of our deep dive today, you are going to understand exactly how this biological machinery is operating in the background of your brain right now.
Which is huge.
It is. And, more importantly, you're going to learn how to stop letting it run on autopilot and manually take control of it.
I am stuck, though, on how a really simple sentence scribbled in a notebook translates into, the physical stamina to run a marathon or the focus to finish a whole degree.
There's a disconnect there visually, for sure.
Yeah, there has to be a physical bridge between writing words on a page and the body actually taking consistent action over 18 months. So let's dig into the biology of that.
Let's do it.
According to the research we're looking at today, your brain is receiving around 11 million bits of sensory information every single second.
Yeah, 11 million.
11 million. That is an almost incomprehensible amount of data. I mean, that's the sound of the hum of the refrigerator, the specific hue of light hitting your eyes, the temperature of the air, and, even the feeling of your shirt resting on your shoulders.
Which you probably weren't even noticing until you just pointed it out.
Exactly. I'm hyper aware of my shirt now.
Right. Which is a perfect demonstration of the mechanism we're talking about. If your conscious mind attempted to process all 11 million of those bits simultaneously, your nervous system would just completely crash from the overload.
Like a computer freezing up.
Exactly like that. You would be completely paralyzed. So evolutionary biology solved this massive processing problem by basically developing a bouncer for your brain.
A bouncer. I love that.
Yeah, it's a small walnut-sized cluster of neurons located at the very base of your brainstem. It's called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And its entire purpose is to act as a ruthless filter.
So it's just kicking people out of the club?
Pretty much. It deletes almost everything, only letting a microscopic fraction of data through to your conscious awareness.
So it's constantly scanning the environment and asking, does this matter for survival right now? And if the answer is no, the data is just wiped. But how does this bouncer figure out who actually gets on the VIP list? I mean, the clinical studies point out that this filter isn't born with a set agenda, right?
It's not pre-programmed with your life goals.
It has to be trained by you. And it learns what to let through based on 3 main criteria, which are repetition, emotional intensity, and whatever you happen to be focusing on right before you go to sleep or right after you wake up.
Yeah, because those are the times when the brainwaves are in a state where the door to the filter is just propped wide open.
You've likely experienced this phenomenon without knowing the scientific terminology.
Oh, everyone has. Have you ever bought a specific make and model of a car, and then the next day you suddenly see that exact car everywhere you drive?
Yes. Or, a close friend gets pregnant, and overnight, it feels like the entire city has been flooded with baby strollers.
Yeah, it's the classic red car effect. The world around you didn't actually change. The local auto dealerships didn't suddenly, you know, deploy thousands of those specific cars onto the highway overnight just to mess with you.
Right, your filter simply stopped deleting them from your visual field.
Because the visual data never actually left. The light reflecting off those cars was always hitting your retina. But previously, your RAS deemed that information irrelevant to your daily life and just deleted it before it reached your conscious mind.
Just got bounced.
Exactly. Once the car became highly relevant to you, the filter updated its parameters. What's fascinating here is that this completely redefines what manifestation actually is.
It really does.
It is not the universe rearranging itself to magically deliver your desires. It is simply you retraining your brain's filter to stop deleting the opportunities, the resources, and the on-ramps that have actually been sitting in plain sight all around you for years.
Man, I love thinking about the reticular activating system like an overzealous email spam filter.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because if you've got an email account, there's a primary inbox, and then there's the junk folder where millions of messages just go to die unseen.
Never to be opened.
Exactly. And if you don't manually go into the settings and drag certain important emails into your primary inbox, that spam filter will just keep quietly deleting incredible opportunities before you ever even know they were sent. You have to explicitly tell the filter, like, hey, the sender actually matters to me.
That analogy holds up perfectly into the neuroscience, actually.
Yeah.
You are manually directing attention to allocate priority.
Yeah.
But acknowledging that we have this incredibly powerful search engine in our heads brings us to a massive complication.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. If the RAS is just sitting there waiting for our explicit instructions on what to filter in and out of reality, why aren't we all just effortlessly getting what we want?
Right. Why isn't everyone walking around living their absolute dream life, bumping into the perfect job and the perfect relationships?
It's the million-dollar question.
And that brings us to the invisible brick wall of our own self-talk. We need to shift from how the filter works in theory to how we accidentally program this filter to actively work against us every single day.
Yes. The clinical case studies highlight how often we use our own words as weapons against our potential.
It's so true.
Every single time you say a phrase out loud, or even just internally in your head, like, I always mess this kind of thing up, or opportunities like that just don't happen for people like me, you are doing far more than just venting frustration.
You're writing code.
Exactly. You are issuing a direct, coded instruction to that 11 million bit gatekeeper. You are explicitly telling your brainstem to delete relevant opportunities on site because you have categorized them as, not for you.
But wait a minute, let me push back on that a bit for the listener.
Sure.
What if someone says, that's not realistic for someone like me, simply because they are trying to protect themselves from crushing disappointment?
Which is super common.
Right, or maybe they've failed a lot in the past and they're just trying to be humble. How does the brain differentiate between a person being grounded in reality and a person who is actively self-sabotaging?
This is the absolute crux of the issue. The brain can't.
It just doesn't know.
It absolutely cannot differentiate. Your reticular activating system does not evaluate the objective truth, the historical accuracy, or the moral intention of a statement. It operates purely on mechanics.
Just zeros and ones.
Right, it merely counts repetitions. The neural pathways don't have a morality filter, they just fire based on frequency.
Yeah.
If you say something enough times, especially if you say it with a heavy feeling of resignation or sadness, that highly rehearsed sentence becomes a settled biological fact to your RAS.
Wow. It's building what the researchers in these papers call the narrow room.
Yes, a psychological prison built brick by invisible brick.
That's a heavy image.
It is, but it's accurate.
Yeah.
Every time you casually remark, I could never pull that off, you lay another brick in a wall you can't even see. Your room gets smaller, your world gets smaller, because your brain is actively doing its job, filtering out any evidence to the contrary to keep your reality consistent with your instructions.
But if we look at the empowering flip side of this biological mechanism, it means that if our daily self-talk is the exact input, narrowing the room, it is also the precise tool we can use to widen it back out.
Absolutely.
Which means we need a reliable, structured way to input new search parameters. We know attention is the mechanism, and careless self-talk is what often corrupts it. So how do we manually fix the spam filter settings?
Well, there's a framework for that.
Right. The deep dive source material outlines 4 interconnected systems that have to work together to physically rewire this filter. System 1 is thought, but having a thought isn't as simple as just wishing for something, is it?
Not at all. The thought has to be formulated in a very specific way for the brain to accept it. It must be in the present tense, it must be highly specific, and crucially, it must be believable to your own nervous system.
Okay, so standing in front of the bathroom mirror shouting, "I am a millionaire," while your bank account is overdrawn is completely useless.
It's worse than useless, actually. It creates active resistance.
Wait, really?
Yeah, when you shout, "I am a millionaire," and your prefrontal cortex knows for a factual certainty that it's false, your brain immediately flags the contradiction. This creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain treats the statement as a lie, categorizes it as noise, and just discards it entirely.
So it's basically throwing it right into the spam folder.
Exactly. However, a thought like, "I am someone who manages money carefully," works beautifully. It operates at the identity level, it's specific, and it's plausible enough for your brain to accept without triggering the internal alarm bells.
Got it. But having the right specific thought isn't going to get past the spam filter if the power supply to the whole computer is, like, surging and sparking.
That is a great transition to system 2.
Body, specifically nervous system regulation. The biology papers explain that stress and cortisol actually tell your body there is an active physical threat nearby. When your body is flooded with cortisol, what does the filter naturally do?
It violently narrows your focus.
It locks down.
Yeah, when the sympathetic nervous system kicks into fight or flight mode, it literally dilates your pupils to give you tunnel vision. It stops scanning the horizon for long-term beneficial opportunities and starts scanning exclusively for immediate deadly threats.
Which makes sense.
It's a brilliant ancestral survival tactic. You simply cannot plan a 5-year career path when a predator is actively chasing you.
Fair point.
So if you are chronically anxious, your filter is biologically clamped shut. Regulating the body through very simple practices like slow rhythmic breathing, splashing cold water on your face to trigger the mammalian dive reflex, or taking a short walk signals to your nervous system that the emergency has passed. Lowering that cortisol literally opens the lens of your filter back up to spot opportunities.
Okay, so once the lens is open, we hit system 3, which is emotion.
Yes, emotion is key.
The brain weights all this incoming sensory information by its emotional charge. So mental rehearsal becomes a huge piece of the puzzle here. The source material points to these incredible studies on elite athletes, showing that genuinely feeling an outcome in your body has an immense physiological overlap with actually doing the thing in reality.
Right, because the brain is remarkably bad at telling the difference between a vividly imagined event, accompanied by real emotion, and an event that is unfolding in physical reality.
That is so wild to me.
It's amazing. When you genuinely feel an emotion, your brain fires the exact same neurochemical cocktail, the same dopamine, the same serotonin, as it does in real life. By doing this, you are physically coating those specific neural pathways in a substance called myelin.
With myelin, they're cooking.
Yeah, myelin insulates the nerve fibers and thickens the connection, speeding up the transmission of those thoughts. But the key word here is genuine.
Genuine, not fake.
Exactly. 90 seconds of a quiet, deeply genuine feeling of pride or peace in your chest will fundamentally rewire your filter and build that myelin faster than, like, 10 minutes of loud, performed fake enthusiasm.
But all the myelin and feeling in the world doesn't matter if the physical body stays frozen on the couch, right?
Bingo.
That's the final piece of the puzzle. System 4, action. Because once your filter starts working properly, opportunities don't usually arrive with marching bands and confetti. They surface as small, quiet signals, a sudden impulse to speak up in a meeting, or an email you almost talk yourself out of sending.
And the brain is incredibly efficient. If you don't take action on those small signals when they appear, your brain undergoes a process called synaptic pruning.
It just cuts the cord.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It registers that the signal was useless. It learns that even when it shows you exactly what you asked for, you do nothing with the information. So to conserve metabolic energy, it prunes that connection and starts deleting those signals again. Action is the crucial feedback loop that proves to your brain that target still matters.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the source material uses this brilliant, illuminating analogy. Trying to use positive thinking, which is just system 1. Thought, without regulating the nervous system, feeling the genuine emotion, or taking actual physical action, is exactly like sitting in a car with a full tank of gas, but no wheels.
Oh, that's so good.
Right. You can rev the engine all you want. You can think positively about the destination all day long, but you are not moving a single inch.
Because these four biological systems, thought, body, emotion, action, must move in tandem. They're interconnected gears driving the exact same machine. Researchers and clinicians note that if you skip even one of these four, the other three will begin to physically degrade within days.
Within days. Wow.
Yeah, the entire neurological framework collapses if it isn't fully supported.
So if the four-step framework is this clear and it's backed by solid biology, why do so many smart, capable people fail at this?
That's the part we really need to look at.
Yeah, we need to look at the common pitfalls, because understanding how this engine breaks down is just as important as knowing how to turn it on. The research highlights three major failure modes. Failure mode number 1. The target is a vague mood instead of a concrete search query.
Right. Telling your brain, I want to be happier, gives your reticular activating system absolutely zero specific data points to look for in the environment.
It's too fuzzy.
Exactly. It's like typing good things into a search engine. The results will be chaotic, overwhelming, and totally unhelpful. Instead, you need a highly concrete query like, I am someone who has one honest conversation a week. That is a specific, measurable parameter your brain can actually scan reality to fulfill.
Okay, and failure mode number 2 we touched on earlier, which is when the emotion is performed rather than genuinely felt.
Yes.
People use a loud voice, maybe they're jumping up and down to hype themselves up, but their internal state is entirely flat or, secretly terrified.
And the brain reads the internal neurochemical state, not the volume of your vocal cords.
Right. And failure mode number 3, action is sized heroically rather than practically.
This is a trap so many ambitious people fall into because planning massive action gives us a quick dopamine spike.
Oh, I've definitely done this.
We all have. They decide to change careers, and their idea of taking action is, I'm going to completely rewrite my resume, update my portfolio, and apply to 20 jobs today.
Which sounds great until you actually try to do it.
Exactly. That is heroic action. It requires a massive amount of metabolic energy, and heroic actions rarely survive a tired, stressful Tuesday evening.
Nope, they definitely do not.
When you inevitably fail to do it, the feedback loop breaks. The action needs to be sized so small that it is highly doable every single day, regardless of your motivation levels.
Let's bring this right back to our case studies to really look at the timelines of how this biology plays out in the real world. Let's look at the Ohio woman from the opening.
Yeah, let's look at her timeline.
For the first 11 days of her writing that sentence, doing the breathing, feeling the emotion, and taking a tiny action, she saw absolutely nothing. 0 results.
Nothing at all.
But by day 16, she noticed she was finishing small household tasks without forcing herself. The identity had quietly started running in the background. By day 40, other people were noticing a fundamental change in her behavior.
And we can contrast that timeline with another case study from the clinical sources, which was a man in his 30s who was attempting to rebuild a business that had completely failed.
Right.
His target sentence was, I am someone who builds things that last.
He used the exact same 4 biological systems every single day. But for him, it took 4 solid months before the pattern became undeniable, not just 40 days.
And I have to pause here because this is where I think anyone listening is going to feel deeply frustrated.
It is frustrating.
I mean, how on earth are you supposed to push through 11 days or worse, 4 grueling months of absolutely 0 visible results in your life without assuming the whole thing is just a scam and quitting? If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to remember that the brain does not ship results on our preferred impatient schedule.
It doesn't care about our deadline.
Not at all. The biological mechanism building those neural pathways remains perfectly identical in both case studies. The only difference is that the timeline scales based on the sheer size and complexity of the target. Rebuilding a failed business requires the filter to surface far more complex opportunities and relationships than building a personal habit of finishing tasks. But the engine works exactly the same way.
It's like planting a seed. You don't yell at the dirt on day 3 because there's no oak tree yet.
Exactly. The heavy lifting is happening underground.
So let's distill all of this complex neuroscience down to the ground level. The source material provides a highly actionable 5-minute daily protocol. If you are listening to this, here is exactly how you put this into practice tomorrow morning. Let's volley this. Step 1 isn't magic, it's setting your search query. Write down one believable present tense identity sentence.
Got it. Step 2, we have to call off the guard dogs. Do 60 to 90 seconds of slow breathing to lower the cortisol. The specific count in the literature is 4 seconds inhaling, a 4-second hold, and 6 seconds exhaling.
Oh.
This regulates the nervous system and physically opens your filter's bandwidth.
Okay, step 3. Do not just write the sentence and run off to start your busy day. Sit there and genuinely feel the emotion of what it would be like to inhabit that identity today. Find that quiet 90-second genuine feeling to start coding those neural pathways in myelin.
And step 4. Take one small, highly doable physical action that day. Do not make it heroic. Make it so small that skipping it would feel absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you commit to this exact sequence for 30 days straight to give the biology time to adapt.
So what does this all mean? It means your brain is not broken. You weren't missing some special magical gift that successful people were somehow born with.
No, not at all.
The life that you want requires the exact same filtering system that you are currently using right now to stay stuck. The biological machinery works perfectly. You just need to update the instructions you're giving it.
It is a profound realization that the narrow realm you might feel trapped in today was built by your own biology, faithfully following your own daily instructions. But that means you possess the exact tools required to systematically dismantle those walls.
I want to challenge you, as you're listening right now, to do a little self-reflection. Look at those 4 systems: thought, body, emotion, action. Which one of those have you been quietly neglecting in your own life?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
Are you revving the engine with positive thoughts, but neglecting the nervous system regulation, leaving your body in a constant state of panic? Are you taking heroic actions, but secretly feeling terrified and flat inside? You need to identify your missing wheel.
Because the moment you align all 4, your reticular activating system stops functioning as a prison guard, keeping you in that narrow room, and it starts functioning as a scout, actively seeking the path forward.
I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over today. Think about the sheer volume of audio, videos, and articles you scroll past and ignore every single day. Millions of bits of data. And yet, you stopped and listened to this specific deep dive all the way to the end.
That's true.
Consider the possibility that the very act of you tuning into this deep dive today might actually be your own reticular activating system at work finally surfacing the precise biological instructions you've been unconsciously searching for to break out of your own narrow room. You've got the tools. Now you just have to start writing the sentence.